Let's get to the nitty-gritty, what everyone wants to talk about. USC coming up. We talked about the Illinois game being the first real test. I'll say this is the first big boy test with national implications. I don't know what to expect. It's hard to even preview this game.
But that falls back to what we've been feeling the last few weeks of like, hey, if we had shown we're going to come out hair on fire every week no matter what, then we'd feel a little bit better about going into this crap shit that could go anyway. We start slow and this, unhinged kid just goes off doing some crazy shit. This game could hurt us more than it could hurt them.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn
And this segment's brought to you by Family Clothesline. They kept us looking sharp all weekend. I'm currently wearing one of the Lulu Polos. It's a Family Clothesline exclusive. Make sure you guys check out Family Clothesline for all of your Penn State apparel needs.
Another week down. Another Nittany Lion win, 5-0. Back another episode of The Pocket. B, happy to be back chopping it up with you again this week.
Yes, sir.
Before we get going here, sponsors, as always, Z-Bart. You're going to get the Z-Bart defensive play of the game here later on in the show. Family Clothesline, they've been awesome. Always staying on top of it with the freshest stuff. Any Penn State gear, check them out. Their website's great. B's representing as always.
I need a new hat, man. You always representing with the hat game. I need to up my cap game.
Actually, this week was the first week I think I didn't come back with a new one. But they're great. Always supportive. Great atmosphere in there. They do a great job. Hidden Still. B's got it in the background.
Oh, got it.
I'm usually sipping it.
Good.
Yeah. Great.
One.
Yeah, great NIL initiative there with what they're doing, Jack and team. So make sure you guys check that out. We were also handing that out a couple weeks ago at some tailgates, so got some fans to taste it. And then last but not least, these shirts we got on NIL merch store, nilbrandonmerch.com. Drop a 1-0 t-shirt. It's got 1-0 on the back here somewhere. Every week that we do go 1-0. So go look at them. I believe they're only limited time, like that week after you win them. So new designs, fresh designs. Go check them out if you're interested in getting a sweet tee that also benefits NIL efforts. So now that that's out of the way, we got a recap coming up. Crazy weekend, initial reactions from the game, offense, defense, USC preview, and mailbag. Thank you guys for hustling with that. So B, like I said, first one, crazy weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think you could write this script. I mean, with Vandy and Bama, I saw someone say something like once in a lifetime thing. I believe that. What'd you think?
College football at its finest, man. This year is already proven to be a legendary one. I can't imagine what it's going to look like, in another 6 weeks. And then moving forward from that, it's going to be crazy. It's fun to watch, I tell you that, seeing all the fan bases go through the ride, the emotional ride all weekend. It's including ourselves, but it's fun to watch just from a pure,
entertainment standpoint.
Fan perspective. Yeah, a lot of people, I see some back and forth. Some people say, they can't watch college football compared to NFL. And I get it. It's not the same. But for that reason is why I think it's great. But yeah, crazy weekend, man. Where do you want to start? Vandy, Bama. Vandy, kind of restarted this season compared to last. Reslated, bunch of transfers out, bunch of transfers in. And they came to play. And it just goes to show. We've talked about it every week for the past 2 years almost now. Parity is with the transfer portal, it's leveling the playing field a little bit. You can add some talent. Specifically at quarterback, you get a guy that can wheel and deal even just a little bit. You can make some things happen. And Vandy, the Vandy quarterback's been doing it for a while. He was at New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So, nothing. Yeah.
The fact that they hung 40 on him was insane to me.
Yeah.
But to your point, though, if you were watching Vandy, they snuck Pry and Virginia Tech week one. had a couple hiccups here and there, but they're not a bad football team.
Right.
And the point you made about just the ability to reload quickly now, if you make the right choices in the portal, and if you don't lose too many of those key developmental pieces that are foundational in your locker room, you can go out there and put a good product on the field quickly. So they threw the damn goalpost in the river, shut down Broadway, said, "We're coming."
Bro, they carried that thing all the way down there. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
I mean, Vandy's in the area, but it ain't that close to carry a goddamn goalpost.
Oh, I know. On a mission.
That is crazy.
On a mission. And then did you see Pavia's post game press conference, like on field post game? Like, yeah, this dude started in like a matter of 10 seconds, went from like saying God gave him a vision as a child to then dropping an F-bomb, being like, "Fucking Vandy, let's get fucking turned." Like, it was ridiculous.
You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. SEC ball is what they say. It just means more, man.
Yeah, I guess. It was nuts. But Michigan going down by UW, Jed Fish getting a big win there.
Yeah.
Big win. Very interesting, too. Michigan still struggling, and I think that point we made a few weeks ago about having quarterback issues this deep into the season is not a good look in today's game. No,
not at all. And I think we saw what's his face, Barstool Press said he's dropping whatever he needs to get a QB after this season, a major bag, which they're gonna definitely need. It's kind of crazy to see, I guess, such a drop off from a national champion. You would think, they had some development ready after our guy moved on to Minnesota.
Yeah, JJ. I mean, I know they were excited about this Orgy kid, but then the way that whole QB battle went on through camp where they didn't anoint him quicker probably meant that there was some chinks in the armor. But still physical team, still a tough team.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can really compete with the more complete teams that have like talent on the other side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And then SC goes down to the Gophers. PJ Fleck and the Gophers getting it done. That's crazy.
He had some gutsy calls late in that game, man. I tell you. But
that's how PJ is, though. He rolls the dice, man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, he had to. Obviously, in hindsight, it's like, okay, USC came right back down the field at the end there, deciding to go for it on 4th and goal for the touchdown, which they got, and they needed. And you saw him just fired up. Every replay, they're going straight to him. That's a big deal for him. And USC, they find themselves falling out.
Yeah,
which is, I mean,
2 losses, but I mean, Michigan and Minnesota, like that, there's something to that. And we're obviously going to dive a little bit deeper into it with the USC preview, but they came out so hot against LSU. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the transition they made from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten and the way that it has shaken out, where the Big Ten and the SEC have kind of been running things as of late for the most part, their transition has not been as smooth as I think they would have liked or anticipated.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said they came out so hot and the talent's there. You see it, no matter what position you want to really look at. The Moss kid has been doing his thing. You can't necessarily point the finger that way. Defense has been tougher, I guess,
Tougher.
Minnesota and Michigan are 2 tough-ass teams, so not tough enough. Yeah. Maybe that's just the Big Ten aspect that, you can't necessarily account for.
Yeah, but I mean, last week they were getting their teeth kicked in by Wisconsin in the first half, and then the defense came out in the second half with their hair on fire. But they're not predictable, which is scary.
Yeah,
because they are talented.
Yeah, we'll get into that for our preview, but still a good team. It's interesting they fall out compared to some other teams. I get it, 2 losses. Yeah. I don't know. I still, like you said, they're still a talented team that can do damage, but What other upsets did we have this week?
Yeah, and then Tennessee,
Arkansas.
but they had a shot. Arkansas got it, but that was a good ball game. Tennessee had a chance there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then Missouri just got their teeth kicked in. Straight up teeth kicked in.
Yeah. That one, look, that was the worst one of them all just because, it just came out, looked so flat. I don't know what it was. They were not prepared for the Aggies, and they came in there and did it to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and all of that ultimately results in Penn State sitting happy at 4 after a win against UCLA in which I was a little post-game now, immediate reaction before any of this other shit happened. Let me be clear here.
Right.
Where I was a little underwhelmed by the overall performance, but this is a perfect transition into our initial reactions of our game. Like, initially I was underwhelmed, but then when you see the craziness that went on, must have been something in the air. The leaves were turning, allergies, who knows? But Giants started falling, and we happened to play a pretty sound game for the most part. Got some reps with our twos, and ultimately walked out of there with a win, sitting at 5-0. And like I said, just springboarded us right into the top 5.
Yeah. Yeah, my initial reaction, similar. I always ask Hack, for the listeners out there, as he's up there every single week with the pregame radio show, like, what was the temperature going on up there? What was this, the chatter, how'd it feel? And it's usually about the same how I'm feeling, on the couch so far. But always good to leave out with a dub. Got to start there. Win is a win. They're not easy to come by. 9 times out of 10, teams are going to beat themselves. And we're not doing that, so if that's great. But to take a term that you always use, Hack, is, there's a lot of meat left on the bone, it feels like, to where me, myself, I'm waiting for us to pounce on these opponents that we're supposed to smash, and just pounce on them from the rip. As we talked about from week 1, bring that maturity of the execution and just be on it. And you see the plays that we make and we don't make, and it's like, wow. Similar to Illinois last week, we gave them a lot of credit beforehand, but like, no, we should have beat them by 21, 24, whatever. And I felt the same way this week. A lot of meat left on the bone, it looks like, out there. From all 3 phases, really. But at the end of the day, the guys, the kids, the boys down there, young men, they got the job done. So you always got to start with love, and a dub's a dub. But definitely waiting for us to kind of push forward and be as great as I see and feel that we can be. And I want them to realize that at the same time.
That is a fantastic point. So a couple of the things that I got, and I felt like I talked to Steve Jones, Jack Ham right after. I talked to our guy Roger up there, who's like got the best radio voice of all time, does like the score reads and stuff, helps us out with our radio post game. But slow starts, like on both sides. And similarly on defense, I watched a little more intently. Like, we're mixing in a lot of cover 2, but we're trying to get cute. Like, we're running Tampa with the nickel, trying to get back to the middle and then displacing with Tony as the Mike or the interior linebacker getting to the hook, to the hook area. And like, they're just running tosser, bro, and just pumping that inside slant in there. And then on the running back wheel route where we got torched, I think it was Jay Reed, or maybe it was one of the younger safeties.
Yeah, no, it's a young linebacker. I think it's Tamir Robinson.
Nah, but they were in 2, bro. And so the backside safety, safety cut. He cut a crosser coming across, like almost like it was like quarters, like 3. Or like 4 cheat or like 4 poach, where you're looking up 3 by 1, and then they just free release the back, and like the corner did his job. He expected help over the top, and the kid threw a great ball. He was getting hit, but at the same time, it's just like crispness when it comes to your point, coming off and like the expectations of what it needs to be up there from the jump, and then even offensively, maybe Nick being out, put some of it, but I don't want to give him too many excuses. There's still plenty of guys out there that can make plays. It was just kind of lackluster. Like, we needed a couple tempo things to get Drew in a rhythm. I thought Trey Wallace played well. Obviously, Liam Clifford played really, really well.
Yeah. Shorthand. Liam had definitely. Well, no, Wallace has shorthands too, but Liam is very close to, if not 1A, to being shorthands reliable, and he's got some juice. He's got some speed. You see him get behind guys. He's not necessarily going to run away, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, short area quickness guy for sure. But the point you made there at the end of that spiel was the point that I want to hammer home, is that I'm not sure if the full team believes to their core how great they can be.
Yeah.
They do great shit, but sometimes it almost looks like it's a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't shown the propensity to be able to be like, okay, I can do great stuff, and I'm going to continue to do great stuff over and over again, in a sense, raising the floor as the ceiling continues to rise, if that makes sense visually. You know what I mean? The floor is no longer here, the expectation's here, and then the ceiling continues to rise, because I think it's a very, very good team that has a very, very, very high ceiling. But it's just like, I don't even know if it's a lack of leadership. I really don't think it is. I just don't think that they, to their core, believe how great they can be. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that too. And it's just funny because you see it with individual guys, probably more the older leaders that have played a lot of ball. So, they're bringing it, with that confidence every single snap. But ultimately it doesn't matter, because as a team, as a unit, offense, defense, special teams, that's where there's meat left on the bone, to the point of come on, you can make this play. We've seen you make this play. Read your keys, do all that, execute, and you'll make it. But it's just not necessarily at the rate percentage at which we would like to see right now, especially against the lesser opponents these not last 2 weeks, but this week, last few weeks really. And
let's just keep it a bean. Kind of every one of these guys that have rolled in, we gave Illinois a lot of credit, but at the same time, every team that's rolled in here on paper wasn't us.
Yeah. And maybe that's us saying, hey, not trying to necessarily drink the juice of we're a freaking great elite team, but kind of still holding on to okay, we're going to give these guys credit because we're not sure exactly what we're going to see. And I thought about that this weekend too. We talk about offensively, and we don't have to transition just yet, but I'm not sure if I know what our identity is as a team. And I know we talked about this last year, and it's completely different. We were struggling in different ways last season, which thankfully we're not this year. And, it's just a completely different year. But as far as identity comes, when I'm speaking more defensively, at least at first, because, we're coming off many years where hey, defense, you didn't really have to, we gave up some plays, of course, teams are good, but there was really no question marks as far as what we were going to be on defense, who we were going to be on defense. And I'm not quite sure I know what that is just yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's not necessarily a game breaker, but getting into this true Big Ten stretch, it's going to have to be answered sooner or later. But I think, the canvas is still pretty blank for those guys to draw what they want to be and who they want to be and bring it all together.
Yeah, I said it on the postgame radio show about the defense specifically. If you're blowing Tampa 2, I don't know. I could just be oversimplifying this, but maybe it's not a thing where you're going to be adding more stuff, but rather condensing to what you're doing great and then just building little tweaks and variations off of that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the starters gave up 3 points this weekend. The twos in that garbage, the twos played the majority of that back half of the fourth quarter and gave up that garbage time touchdown. 7 to Illinois, blank Kent State. And, let's not talk about the first two, but they were on a little bit of a roll just in terms of efficiencies, less than 100 yards of total offense for 2 of those games there. Really good stuff. like I said, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I think that maybe it's time to be, hey, let's zero in on this, and then just kind of, like I said, build those little sub packages and variances based upon your personnel and what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think you have enough historical data now that, we can't cover the inside slant and cover two, which at its basic form, if I'm an offensive coordinator and I'm playing a 2-team, I definitely have variations of tosser and short post and all kinds of stuff in my game plan. Yeah. Right? Because that's a deficiency in 2.
And the only way you can possibly try to defend it better is just having a wherewithal of hey, this is the weakness in this coverage that we've been getting gashed on. That's where as a linebacker, I'm but also just, you have your own responsibilities. You're reading your own keys, so it's whatever. But to your overall point is I agree with you is yes, if we're busting coverages this late, getting into this stretch against lesser opponents, yes, let's hone in on what we've done well. And kind of let's just line up and play ball because, that wheel route for 60 is going to go for 6 against USC. That back is going to stretch or, they've got a plethora of wide receivers that are scary to me. They've been making plays all these weeks, even though they've been losing. Those guys have been making plays. But yeah, that's exactly how I feel. It's just come on, guys. Every week I'm noticing little things that we're giving them. They're not beating us. We're giving them, whether it's bad eyes, that's a lot of it. Half the time is what I see in man coverage, at least.
Just getting a little greedy.
Yeah, getting a little greedy, just eyes on your luggage. I forget what coach said this way. It might have been T. Smalls probably back then, or maybe an NFL coach. When you're in the airport, keep your eyes on your luggage at all times. And that's the same thing in man coverage principles, no matter what's going on. But all in all, like you said, starters gave up 3 points. Even on the big gash on the wheel play, good hustle by the young DBs. Get over there and then hold them, truthfully. Because it's still positive, and all the gripe we give and we feel as a fan base, there's still positives that you got to pull from it and lean on. Because you are 5-0, you got to keep that going.
No doubt. And let's take this time to touch on the offense, but also transition into the takeaways from the offense. And when you're talking about identity, I think it's a great transition point because what I believe our identity is as an offense was taken away from us for the most part during this game, which is our ability to run the football in a dominant fashion. Now, had explosives, so forth and so on, but we did not have a 100-yard rusher this week. First time all season, I believe. Again, maybe credit it to the fact that Katron had to kind of carry the load. Our 3 was down, had to get another young true freshman in there, getting some reps. Didn't have the explosion that Nick brings to the table, but I thought that hurt us. You could see that Drew kind of felt that a little bit, but then was able to get in a rhythm and ultimately make a couple plays that separated it. We're decent on third down. I think we were 56 or 58%. Didn't start fast though. Like I said, the lack of starting fast. I felt Tyler Warren. We got him back with that whole that old boot right Bama concept we used to run with JD our first years, the double post with the tight end leaking out in the wheel. Got him on that coming towards the student section once, but really didn't get him super involved from just a scheme standpoint, passing scheme standpoint. So little inconsistency at the receiver position when it came to just basic routes on air, running stops, running comebacks, running hitches, a little inconsistency there that could have disrupted rhythm. But at the end of the day, to your point, they were able to make plays when they needed to make them. But when you're talking about now big picture and starting to compare and contrast against the likes of the teams that you're going to start being compared and contrasted to with this number 4 ranking, that shit's got to get cleaned up and cleaned up quick. And, Drew can do so much, but, there's things he could definitely get better on. But overall, you got to have those guys playing a little bit more confidently in terms of just one-on-one pure matchup football.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting enough, to me, I still felt like offensively we were in control of the whole game.
No doubt.
And that's the point where we allude to at the beginning of, like, we're not pouncing, we're not starting fast enough because clearly, like, you know, it's like playing, I don't want to say with your little brother, but you know you're not going to let him score. You know you can do what you want to do, but you're still kind of tripping up over your feet on these plays like you're talking about, a little inconsistency here, not dominant run game here. You know, we were ripping off some 6, 7, 8 yard runs, but when it came down to crunch time, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, wasn't necessarily popping those off. And I think Singleton definitely eases that a little bit. Some of those 8 yard runs are 12, 15 with him, you know, a little extra gear. But nonetheless, I still feel better about the offense than the defense at this current moment. I'm honestly getting to a point where I feel like if we needed to, which we will at some point, drive down the field 2-minute 30, whatever, Drew can drop back and dot the field confidently, you know. He can do that. But to your point, you know, are we going to be ready in position to make the plays on the other end of these throws? You know, we've been talking about these throws over the middle, anticipation these last few weeks. It's looking great. And he has to keep that up no matter who's out there, who's he's throwing it to. That's what he has to keep no matter what's kind of going on. Some drops here and there. But I feel confident he can do that. Now, everyone else has to elevate, O-line included. I think we gave up a lot of plays. Trust me, we had a lot of good plays by the O-line, but I still feel they can be more dominant. I know they're a unit that's still kind of gelling, you know, lost a lot of talent, but it's just, that's the frustrating part, is like you see so much potential and they're displaying it, but I think we see much more than maybe they think they even feel. And with that being said, it's like you guys can truly do damage if you just go out there and kind of balls to the wall and just lay it out there.
It's like 10% better. Like it's like 5 or 6 more plays throughout a game that would make it feel so much different. Yeah. And it's not like 5 or 6, like that's a stretch, you know, that we could have made that play. It's like 5 or 6, like definitely should have made that play. The one thing I said, and you can react to this or just chew on it, but the one thing I said after the game on radio, and I asked Jason, I said, what do you think our Achilles heel is offensively? And he went on with his thing. And mine was, I don't know if we could truly, if we got down by 2 scores, win a shootout. Like if we got down by like 14. Like, I don't know if we could really like consistently execute in a drop back fashion. And again, not saying it's Drew, I'm saying, or not even just saying it's the receivers. I'm just saying, like, as a whole, I don't know if we could just be like, all right, fuck it, here we go. Like, I don't know if, and I think it might go back to the first point that I made earlier about, I don't know if these guys like truly believe how great they can be. And that's why I say it. Like, it's just like kind of unwavering confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And something you just said, we're going to find out because at some point we're going to have to. Yeah. You know, even as good as our defense is playing, at some point, you know, someone's going to sneak in here and get something on us. And especially if we continue to start as slow as we have been, you know, that could be something.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And like you said, when we move up into this 4 AP poll position, you start getting compared, whether you like it or not, think it's fair or not, you're getting compared to Texas, top 5, top 4, those offenses. You know, I'm even just thinking of Miami last night.
Yeah, Georgia against Bama.
You know, and it's like, hey, you don't have to be Cam Ward and run around and do this, and you can be yourself and still be just as confident as what I see from those guys like that. As far as to your point, like, hey, when we get down 14, I don't know, can we afford to not abandon a run game, because you shouldn't do that, but if time doesn't permit it, you can't do it anyway, to your point, in drop back fashion. Our 4 receivers, tight end, 2, kind of just go out there and get open and
play ball. It turns into recess ball. Like, I don't know if we can play recess ball.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. But, you know, maybe that's similar to our brand of ball, is like, hey, we control defensively, make sure we keep our run game alive, keep that a part of the offense, play action, things of that nature. That's kind of how I think we're going to have to play and how we have been, bend but don't break defensively. Timely turnovers, timely plays, which we've been able to do. It's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword, but
Yeah.
that's how it's going to have to be. To your point, yeah, we get down to USC or anyone moving forward by 14, 17, I think it'll be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want it to happen, but I know that at some point in time, there is going to be a backs against the wall moment. I hope it's a little bit lesser than that, so we do overcome it.
Right.
And it's, kind of not getting just thrown into the deep end, but being able to wade into it slowly. But we'll see. Defensively, B, a little more nitty gritty, a little more granular. What do you got for the boys?
This coming weekend, or are we still recapping?
No. Let's stay UCLA. Let's make sure we gotta get our Z-Bar boys in here. We gotta get our Z-Bar boys in there.
No, man, we've been talking about the last few weeks, and it comes up again with the Z-Bart, defensive play of the week. This second half defense, we come out hot, on fire. Whatever we got to do to bring that, transition that to out the gate, we got to find a way, leadership-wise, coach-wise, player-wise, because we came out on fire. I think it was the first third down. UCLA was backed up against the student section, and our guy, Jalen Reed, came in on a late blitz, and strip sack was a huge play for us. Got the juices flowing again. Got the ball out, too. Could have been a crazy turnover, but lucky bounce straight to the QB. So kind of want to tee that up as our Z-Bart defensive play of the week.
So like B said, our Z-Bar defensive player of the week, Jalen Reed, strip sack. Guy fell on it, strip sack, though. Set the tone for the second half. Z-Bart, your vehicle's best defense. Big thanks to Z-Bart for supporting the show. And watch out for the Z-Bart defensive play of the week every week here on The Pocket. And without further ado, let's see it.
You see Jalen Reed at the top right there. Comes scot-free and a nice. He has good timing on his blitzes, man. Finds the open lane. We've been talking about the last few weeks. It's kind of difficult with our guy Winston down at the moment, but this kid Reed plays his best ball closer to the line of scrimmage. Has a natural feel, and whenever we can get him down there, expect plays like this. Big third down, 3rd and 12. Got him right there. Gets the ball. That's what I love the most. Gets that ball out. The ball is the program. Always is. Sacks are cool, but strip sacks are better. And I'll take our chances on the ball, not bouncing straight to the QB every time.
No doubt. And similar to the Illinois game, love the look, love the pressure with him, love getting him involved because, to your point, his explosivity and then the way they structured that front, they kind of overloaded the D-line to the boundary and then walked Tony and another linebacker up off the edge there, able to screw with protection and get him in an advantageous look. Because I will give UCLA a ton of credit coming out to kind of counteract the way that we had the second half against. They got the ball out quick. They were doing a great job of just spitting it with quick game and getting it out of the kids' hands. That was their backup quarterback. And Eric Bieniemy, schemed that up well, and they were executing. It's tough. It's tough to be, really realistically, it put a lot of the onus on the secondary to be able to disrupt timing, and we weren't quite able to do that. And maybe that's again to our mixture of zone that we were throwing in there, and not really going out there and manning those boys up and getting into their shit. But anyway, without getting too nerdy there, again, that's your Z-Bart defensive play of the week. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty, what everyone wants to talk about. USC coming up. We talked about the Illinois game being the first real test. I'll say this is the first big boy test with national implications. Obviously, with USC going down, kind of hinders some of that, but still goes back to my point. I said this again on air after the game. I don't know what to expect. They're really good, visually. They do really good stuff for portions of the game. They don't really put it all together. it scares me because it's kind of like that, like, person that's like unhinged, like not mentally stable, like they, like, you know, like they could do something crazy at any point in time, and you have to be prepared for that. But then they could also just be, you know, kind of sedated, sitting in a corner, and you can just steamroll them. So it's hard to even preview this game. A lot of it's going to come down to like how does travel affect. I think we're heading out there Thursday, so we're trying to get acclimated, which I like. But that's where I'm at with this. Like, probably the best team on paper we've seen all year. And it's going to be a crapshoot. Who wakes up? What side of the bed do they wake up on? That's kind of, I mean, I know it's shitty, but it's kind of what it is.
But that falls back to what we've been feeling the last few weeks of like, hey, if we had shown we're going to come out here on fire every week no matter what, then we'd feel a little bit better about, you know, going into this crapshoot that could go anyway. But everything we just said is like, hey, we start slow and this, you know, unhinged kid just goes off doing some crazy shit, you know, which they can. They kind of not only have nothing to lose, but, you know, this game could hurt us more than it could hurt them, very much so.
And historically, before I want you to finish your point, but historically in games like this where we have everything to lose and they really don't, those are the games that have bitten us in the ass in the past 3-4 years. Right.
And especially against a talented team like this. So, but, you know, I'm always going to lean on the side of confidence. You know, it's a prime opportunity. I think still, without them being, you know, top 25, I think the allure of like going up against USC should get your blood going. But that's also what we always get from everyone. That's why we get everyone's best shot. It's everyone's time to play against Penn State. You know, for whatever reason, we catch a lot of slack, and everyone wants to beat our ass. So, you know, everyone wants to do it to us. So it'll be a lot of that, which I think both teams will probably come out on fire, and it's going to come down to execution, which it always does and always will. And once those kind of emotions get out of it, you know, I think it's going to have that big allure, you know, granddaddy of them all type of thing. Yeah. Because it's USC, historic programs, weather, I hope it should be beautiful. Everything will be set up perfect, minus the rankings for both teams, but this will be a crazy atmosphere, and we got to be ready. Leave the emotion aside and just execute.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have to start faster. We have to finish drives earlier on offense. Yeah, for sure. We have to finish drives earlier in the game. I think that's probably going to be a big point of emphasis for Andy this week at practice, is just coming out and finishing drives early, being able to not kick field goals, but put 6 and then eventually 7 on the board. And I think if we can do that, it'll put us in that position of kind of where we were against Bowling Green, when I think we did kind of have our backs against the wall a little bit. Yeah. But the offense was just able to do what they did, and then the defense picks up. I have a little more confidence in our defense abilities. To your point, the emotions in this game, I think, will be teed up a little more, maybe a little more risky from the jump, with the understanding that, you know, the offense has our back. But at the same time, you know, this is not a lesser program as it pertains to talent. And like you said, some of those little miscues and mishaps that have happened, if you do that against a team like this, it's not a 25-yard play and you could be like, all right, great, you know, defense, get a stop and, you know, hold them to 3, or, you know, something crazy happens and they end up getting pushed out of field goal range and having to punt. Like, I think it's like they're going to score on that play or get a lot closer than that, just with breakaway speed and talent. So you have to win your Jimmys and Joes matchups on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And like you said, they're going to make their plays, so we can't give them anything. Just going back to defense, you know, zone eyes, man eyes, too soft a zone. That's just stuff.
You got to make them earn it.
Gotta make them earn everything, because trust me, they're going to be gunning to take it. Like I said, the number 4 is on your back, moved up in the rankings. It's going to be a target every week, more than it already was. So you're going to get the best out of everyone. They have uber talent everywhere, so I expect to see a lot of explosives.
Yeah. And Michigan made them earn it. And even with a lackluster amount of quarterback play there, like, they still they still made them earn it defensively, and eventually it turned into a pick six that was, I think, the difference in that football game. Because other than that, Miller played a pretty relatively clean football game. So,
Yeah.
You're going to have to probably get a takeaway or two and, be able to, like you said, sedate them early and just put them in their place. And then
you gotta
be able
have
to run the rock.
I do not want to be in a nut crunching time out in LA and they're home. Things get tight, pounce on them early and sustain control throughout.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. That's what we got for you. And I apologize for the lack of depth with that, but I will be watching just as intently as every other fan here, with probably on the edge of my seat because of everything I just highlighted. So,
I mean, it could go so many ways, to your point of just a crapshoot.
Like I could literally see them. This and Jason and I said this to each other off air, but I said, we both look here. I could literally see it being a slugfest. I could see it being a shootout. I could see us beating their ass. I could see them beating our ass. And odds would be the same across the board for all of them.
Right.
Because there's really no one thing that you could point to, like this is better than this or this is better than that. It's really just kind of two teams that are in different phases of playing really good complementary football and putting complete games together. Neither of these teams have played what I would consider a very complete football game. I think we're just a little bit further ahead in terms of consistency and execution. But on the flip side of that, USC's also played more teams that are of like or better talent and are 1-1 against those two teams, I would say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And one of them being LSU in the SEC that they did win.
A healthy LSU at the time.
Yeah, fresh, super fresh, as fresh as they get. So it'll be interesting. But let's get to the mailbag. Mailbag's back. Appreciate that. Everyone jumped on it. I got a little bit of a late jump. That was on me. Had the family up this weekend right after the game. I just wanted to sit on a chair, throw a football with my son in the parking lot, and talk to my wife because I didn't get to talk to her too much as I was running around pre-game. So yeah, smart man. Let's look and see what we got here. Let's go to Ed Helinski. How weird has it been to see and experience the likes of UCLA and USC in the Big Ten?
Good question. I like that one. Honestly, I don't think it's been too weird for me. I think it's been like a breath of fresh air that I've fully embraced. So although I may not even think about, US or UCLA or these guys being in the Big Ten, but I kind of just rolled with it. I love it because, like I said, breath of fresh air, influx of talent into the division. It's every week is like a bigger deal than what it was. USC going against Minnesota. No one really thinks of that, and it was a great game. Yeah. Like we said, those boys over there in Minnesota got a great upset. So things like that, I love it. To be honest, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it too. Typically those matchups were left for the Rose Bowl. I will say this, and I might be going out on a limb, but I just think logistically it's not going to be the case forever where you're seeing these matchups year in, year out. I think the move ultimately is going to shake some hands or force some hands to go to more of that like NFL model that I've said for the past 3 years. But enjoy it while it's here. That's what I will say. You know what I mean? Let's go to Andy Rupert at We Are at the Top. Always in the mailbag. Appreciate the support here. I get the reason for this, but something you will hear in the tailgating fields, talk about the difference between the NFL, where injuries / suspensions and how long someone will be out are more transparent compared to the vagueness of college football that sometimes frustrates fans. That's a great question.
I kind of can't put it to anything more than it's just the rules. Rules are different, so you don't have to tell anyone shit. Their coaches are not going to say anything. I guess I don't even know the true reason for that. Is it minors? I don't know. Everyone's under 18 or HIPAA. I don't know what the true.
I know Coach Franklin kind of explained it like, he wants it as like a respect thing where before he goes to the media, he wants to have time to talk to the players. Mm-hmm. I think it's also kind of like one of those things where maybe they're not governed by the PA like the NFL is, and it's become part of strategy, right? Like if you were the head coach, like you wouldn't want on Tuesday for the opposing team to know who's banged up, who's questionable, who's going to play, who's not going to play, and for what reason. You know what I mean? I think part of it's kind of strategy. And I think at Penn State, I think the bigger thing is there's like discrepancy, I guess you could say sometimes. And it's hard when coach is trying to be super political to be like 100% and everyone's going to nitpick it. So like, I'm not really blaming anyone, but the only thing that I could say is like, maybe this is why fans feel this way is that there's been some discrepancy in terms of transparency with some of these things, depending on starter, non-starter, some other things of that nature. But, like I said, I also don't blame coach for that. Like that's part of it. And I thought he's handled it well. But unfortunately as fans, you gotta understand that there is a little bit of strategy into this and it kind of is what it is.
Well, I think it's the whole now these kids are men, but head coach, father figure, like protecting the kids a little bit more versus NFL. It's like, I'm the head coach, but this is a grown man. I'm not necessarily looking out for him in any way. Retaining information, because we know how it is. I mean, we find out so-and-so was hurt, everyone's going to be blowing them up and things of that nature. What's going on? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So I think part of that, too, on top of strategy, just calls for, we're going to keep as much information in-house as possible, which is always the case with football teams.
Coach Court 95. Coach Court _95. Sorry, don't want to leave that underscore out. I understand we want to run the ball and be balanced, but do you guys know if there's a particular reason that when Drew starts to look like he's gaining the hot hand, they take the ball out of his hands? From a general fan's perspective, it just seems that sometimes they take the offense out of rhythm and it makes him look a little clunky. We talked about that.
Yeah, we have.
We talked about that with the bow thing, but
I think only with the ball thing. I mean, running the ball, I'm never going to say, pass the ball 10 times in a row, drop back. I think there's always a good balance. Now, I think it really depends on the type of play call that we're kind of going with, in which I'm not an offensive coordinator. I can't necessarily speak to how they go about their game plan, but that's where I can see where this question's coming from. It's more so the type of play call that we may get when, Drew is in a nice rhythm, striking down the middle or wherever it is. I think I see where a fan base can say, hey, no, let him drop back again and do it again. I think there's definitely a certain balance that the offense needs to keep, and especially with our running game that's been really the backbone, I think you have to keep that. Like we said, I don't think you necessarily want to put Drew in that position until we have to make it.
You definitely don't. Yeah. You definitely don't. I can speak as a guy who's been in the position where everybody in the stadium knows he's going to throw it 50 times today. It's tough. It's mentally draining, physically draining too, because you're not only putting the quarterback in a bad position, but you're putting the O-line in a bad position. You can speak to it as a defensive guy. Like when you know that the rush is different, the intensity is a little different. So it's you definitely need to mix some stuff in there. Maybe a little more screen game. That's one thing that I could say that could, I guess, give Drew the feeling of rhythm and also hold up some of that rush. And that's really one thing now that I think about it that I haven't seen a ton of.
Yeah, we haven't.
Like the old school.
We get cashed on it defensively. Like we're getting it every week by everyone.
Yeah, interior the interior screen game, not necessarily your perimeter screen game because we definitely throw that, but some of that interior screen game. But that may be something we're holding up our sleeve, off of some of these play action looks and stuff like that we have. But yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. I mean, it's tough. It's tough when you put it in that when you put a kid in that position. I do get and feel for, when he seems to be hot, but then sometimes he's done some things where he's getting hot and then, we have a drop. And I will say, I wish they would go back to it like right away, because that's an easy way to just overcome that. But,
right.
That's nitpicking though. Let's get a couple more here. B, this one's for you. I'll let you rip this one from Delicon Tessa. It feels like our defense is either playing soft coverage in the first half or the game plan isn't right. Then at half, they're either adjusting or getting their acts together. They just don't seem as disciplined as they usually are. We can't only be a second half team moving forward. What are B-Bell's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely touched on this earlier. So, Tessa, I hope you listen into the whole full episode, but definitely agree with you as far as the discipline. There's nothing that schematically we can do there. That's just coming into, the players being more locked in on their keys and P's and Q's for whatever play call is thrown out there. Soft coverage, yeah, we spoke on that. I'm not a big fan of that. I think if you're going to be an elite defense, you have to match zone these zone coverages. Be a little bit more tight, as we see. This UCLA kid that came in first start, he was able to dot us up in a few of those, cover twos that we were speaking about earlier. Which, I mean, that's the weakness of the defense. You can coach a kid up to strike those passes. So, as far as the first half or second half, I think it comes down to, and I think we talked about this last week. I think we have a game plan, but it seems that, the opposing offense kind of combats our game plan, knows what we're thinking to do. And then ultimately, second half, we go back to just doing what we want to do and lining up and playing ball, bringing some heat and saying beat us, which is my kind of brand of football, what I've seen from these guys the last few years. I prefer that versus dropping spot zones, too many holes, too many windows, especially against a formidable QB who's going to know where to put the ball. But
yeah, you got to disrupt it. Like a good quarterback's going to pick you apart in zone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, let's get two more. These are two good ones that came in the DMs. This is from Levi Wagoner 42. Look at you, man. That's a good play on words there. If Penn State goes 11-1 with a loss to Ohio State, and Oregon goes 11-1 with a loss to Ohio State, also, and Ohio State goes 12-0, who goes to the Big Ten championship?
It may come down to, I'm not sure how they actually do this. It may come down to how each game played out, point spread. If we lose to Ohio State by 1 in this scenario versus a full touchdown of Oregon or vice versa, that would be the only quote-unquote fair way. I know nothing's fair, but because that would be the three best teams in the league. One of the one-loss teams has to be in over who else? A Michigan, No, it'd have to be us. Yeah,
I think either way,
or one of the two.
I think either way, all three get into the playoff.
Yeah, that's a
but yeah, I think it would probably be some type of point spread margin. I think it would be a little bit of optics, and then it would probably be something with, if there's any games, and I'm sorry, I'm not super familiar with Oregon's schedule, and I should probably dive into that. But I would probably say it would be like opponents, and then some type of either score margin or something like that associated with it. Because I know the Big Ten, I know specifically conference championship games are probably a little bit more statistically dictated as it pertains to who gets in, as opposed to like a playoff bid. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would, or at least I would imagine so. So that's kind of how I could probably see that playing out. But great question, Levi. I like it. I love the hypotheticals. And then last one here, let's get Jeremy Fabian. here. He goes, can we get out of the Rose Bowl 1-0? Our run game looked lost without Singleton. What's your take on our run game and the key to going 1-0 this week? Got to throw the "we are" in there with 3 exclamation points, and I love that.
I would not say our run game looked lost. I wouldn't agree with that. Once again, we touched on this earlier, but definitely Nick Singleton brings a next level explosion to our run game that eases everything for everyone. Like I said, 6-7 yard gain could be 12-15 with him. But either way, we're going to need him and Fat Man this upcoming week to bring our brand of football to our point we talked about earlier, Hack, as far as not doing everything we can do not to get into a shootout. Run game, ball control type of offense. And, I mean, we've shown we can get down the field in 4 or 5 plays, which is great. But I don't think relying on that is who we are. So can we definitely come out of Rose Bowl 1-0? Yes, 100%. Really, no matter what brand they come out with, we can come out 1-0, but it's going to take more consistency, more focus than we've necessarily shown these past few weeks, more execution. And with the run, and that starts with the run game, honestly, to your question. So,
Yeah, I would echo what you said. I don't think the run game looked lost. I just thought it was a little bit lackluster. You could probably point at that was probably one of the first games in Katron's career where he's had to carry the load consistently, which that's something I haven't heard many people talk about. Just the tread on the tires, and even just in a game, your win by that second half. Like if you have half the amount of carries that he probably had heading into the second half, a couple of those 5 or 6 yarders were 12 or 13 yarders just because you have fresher legs. So I would say that was probably something, a little bit of an element to it. But I just thought that we were so efficient in the run game prior to this that anything a little bit slightly less was going to feel extremely underwhelming. To your point, definitely need to keep it in the repertoire. I don't think we are tooled to just spread it out and rip it down the field, whether it's methodically or with super, super explosive plays. I think a lot of our explosives in the passing game have either come off of some type of run motion pre-snap with a fake or just run personnel, something like that. Like Andy's done a really good job of making it all appear the same at the snap. And then I think that just helps. To your point, it puts the defense in a tough position where they have to be very, very disciplined with eyes and read very, very small keys in a very finite amount of time. So I think just continuing to build off that. And then, the one thing, sorry, we're not gonna be able to get to all these. I read through all of them, but like the fast starts, things of that nature, like we definitely have to clean it up. I remember that was something that we had when we were players. Like, I don't really know how you fix it other than really focusing on I think, I guess I could say like as a player, like I think not thinking about starting fast.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and not really thinking about more than the play at hand, which is really hard. You got to get people in the subconscious there and kind of flow state from the jump where they're just playing the game and executing and just winning each snap. Yeah. And that's kind of how you almost have to make it dumber for players than like hammering the point home, right? It's just like we have to execute every little detail. So
paralysis by analysis.
It
could be a thing where maybe we're thinking too much about what they're gonna do and seeing this look and getting this look and reacting to this versus just, at least especially for defensively, just reacting like just go. Which back to our earlier points and some of the coverages. Like you said, let's dumb it down. Maybe if we're not hitting on all cylinders on these certain calls and getting gashed. Let's bring it back a little bit and hone in on what we, the simpler, what we know we do very well.
Yeah. And then the last one, the number 4 ranking, a little bit of a product of what happened this weekend, whether you're buying it or not. We got a hell of an opportunity here for the next 5 weeks to sell it to those non-buyers and prove those buyers right. So I'll leave it at that. E, as always, bro, great chopping it up here. We will be back again next week, fresh off of a West Coast trip for the boys and doing what we do. And as always, you guys are looking to find us all apps, whatever the hell they are that hold podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. You can find us there. We post them weekly when they do drop on our socials. So follow us, State Media PSU. You can follow Brandon and I also individually, as there are always clips of this type of stuff coming, retweeted, liked, pushed back out, collaborated upon. So we appreciate the support up to this point. Mailbag will be back as always. And with that, good luck to those of you traveling west.
Yes.
Enjoy it. And we'll be back next week.